is Cheryl from Warren Newport Public Library. Thanks for joining me today for Kids in the Kitchen. Today we're going to make apple crisp. So since this is apple season, I thought that would be an ideal baked good to make. Before we get started, remember there's a few things you need to do. Wash your hands, make sure your work surfaces are clean, and if you have long hair, can you pull it back? All right, let's get started. For this recipe, we're going to need 4 apples, some butter. I've cut up most of the apples already. Cinnamon, nutmeg, oatmeal, flour, and brown sugar. Not too many things. All right, so let's start by paring our apple. I always wash my apples with a little bit of detergent and water and then rinse them really well before I peel them. And I'm just using a regular old apple peeler. So no big deal. You should be able to handle this just fine. If you're not comfortable with your knife skills, you might want an adult to help you get the core out of the middle of the apple. It's up to you. You could also peel your apple and then use an apple core. There's one of these metal contraptions that you put over the top of the apple and you push it down. Your parents will know what it is. And then you could just have the core will be gone and all you have to do is just slice up the apples. So the apples are all sliced, all 4 of them. All right, so I have this one peeled. Put it on the plate. All right, so I'm going to cut it in half. Like I said, there's different ways you can do it. I cut up a lot of the apples, 3 of the apples ahead of time. And if you do that, put them in a little bit of lemon and water, and then they will not turn brown. Right? Slice, slice, slice. And you try to get your slices sort of uniform. That means that they're all the same. And when we use our apples later, we're going to take and we're going to dry them because you don't want your apples to be full of water. So we're just going to pat them dry. Cut this in half. Get the core out. Now, I happen to be using Granny Smith apples, but you could use any kind of apple that you prefer. I just like a tart apple for this particular baked good. Make sure they get water on them. Easy peasy. All right, that's done. So, next, before we put our apples in our baking dish, I'm using an 8x8 baking dish. You want to grease it. So you could use either a little butter on a piece of wax paper, or I tend to use the oil spray, just because it's easier. Done. All right. So now we're going to dry our apples off, and we're going to put them into our dish. And I'm just using a regular old dish towel. And I'm just picking them up, letting them drip a little bit, drying them off a little bit, just like that, not much, and putting it in the bottom of our dish. So once we get all of our apples put in our dish, then we're going to make a topping. And the topping is what the oatmeal, the flour, and the brown sugar are. Just so they're not all drippy, that's all. You want to just sort of layer them in the bottom. You can, any way you do it is just perfect. There's no right or wrong way to lay the apples in your pan. You can't really do this dish wrong. 2 more bunches. bunches and we'll have them all. Now, if for some reason you want to buy apples, I think that you can buy them already cored. I don't know about peeled, but that would save you some time if you don't want to do that. I just like peeling apples. A few more. All right. Put them in. Perfect. And remember, although it seems really full, once it's baking, the apples sort of bake down so it becomes not so high. All right. Next, we're going to make up our topping. And our topping consists of oatmeal, flour, all of these are a half a cup, and brown sugar. So we'll quick give that a little bit of a stir, just so it's mixed. Then we're going to add 6 tablespoons of butter that we're going to blend into this. Now, this is butter. I cut my butter up into little pieces because I think it's easier to get it mixed in. But notice on your butter sticks, there's lines. And you can count out, and so if it says 6, you can go 6 lines, and then you have each one of these is 1 tablespoon. So you don't have to do anything but cut where you need to and break it up and put it in your dish. So this is 6 tablespoons of butter. Now I use a fork to blend this. Different people do it different ways. You could use butter knives and you can mash it together that way. There's also something called a pastry blender. Again, your parents will probably know what this is. It's a tool you can use to make butter blend into your flour or mix up easier. It'll mix it up easier. But I like a fork. And you're trying to get small pea-like crumbs. That's what you want it to look like. You also, if you wanted to, could just put your fingers in there and just squish it together. Any of those ways will work. It's getting there. Very good. Okay, we're going to add our spices now also. It's 3/4 of a teaspoon of cinnamon and 3/4 of a teaspoon of nutmeg. So we're going to blend those into our butter mixture also. So this is 1/4 of a teaspoon. So I'm going to put 3, which will be 3/4 of a teaspoon. 1, 2, 3. Now I'm going to do the cinnamon. 1. Come on. 2. 3. Done. Okay, now see it's a little bit darker. So now I'm just going to keep mushing it together using my fork or my hands or a pastry blender, whatever you choose. Now I started using my butter in a cold form. So it sat out for maybe 15 minutes before I put it in here. I cut it up though when it was cold. Okay, it's almost done. I'd say maybe 10 more times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10. Okay, we're ready. Now you can do this with a spoon. I like to use my hands to sprinkle it on. So that's what I'm going to do. And you just put it right on top of your apples. Just like this. Again, there's no wrong way to do it. Oop. Any way you put it on is perfect. And as this bakes, this is going to bake in the oven at 350 degrees for about 40 minutes. You want to look and make sure it's getting brown on the top before you pull it out. This topping will get kind of crunchy and brown, and that's how you'll know it's done. This is a favorite dessert in my house. Again, I promise you will like it if you have never had it. All right. Okay, I'm going to put it in the oven, and I'll see you back here in 40 minutes. Welcome back. Your apple crisp is baked. So let's take a scoop out. Now you could eat this with ice cream or whipping cream, and it's wonderful all by itself. There you go. Doesn't it look good? Your house should smell so good with cinnamon and nutmeg. Enjoy your fall dessert. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.